Hi guys, what's up? I hope everybody is doing good and at least started off your preparation in some small manner, if not in full-fledged. If you already started in full-fledged manner, good for you. So yeah, I know that the exams are in November, but then I've been getting a lot of requests on this exclusive video, which is for the detailed preparation of EIS-SM and ITSM at both for old and new syllabus. Now I've already put up a video for detailed preparation strategy of audit. If you haven't watched it, the link is right up popping on screen. So you can go there and watch out. I'm also leaving that link in the description. So this video is going to be broken into 4 parts. First I'm going to do SM for the new syllabus, then EIS, followed by SM for the old syllabus, and finally IT for the old syllabus. And then I will tag up the timelines in the description, so you can possibly go and click on whichever timeline is relevant to you and watch the video. Do let me know the feedback on watching it and try to follow the detailed preparation and presentation strategy, and I hope it helps you. Let's get started. Okay, so first let's start with the new syllabus and strategic management paper. You know the paper is for 50 marks with 15 MCQs and 35 question and answers, which is also going to be similar when it comes to the EIS part. So first let us analyze how do we go about the entire preparation plan. Most people try and do something and find out the important questions and all that. All that is not necessary. Strategic management is a beautiful subject. The way it is organized itself is good enough. So in the new syllabus that there are 8 chapters and all. How do we rearrange the 8 chapters in an order of our understanding? There is no much of reordering required except for this. First I want you to do chapter 3 and then come down to chapter 2. Otherwise, rest of the order continues to remain the same. So of the 8 chapters, chapter 1, though it's called a chapter, it's pretty much not a big chapter and all that. It just has the definitions of business policy, strategy, management, and the basic definition of strategic management, which defines the entire aspect of strategic management, which says it starts with setting a vision and then developing objectives, crafting strategy and implementing the strategy, and finally taking corrective actions. You know that. And the best part about this definition and your syllabus is organized exactly the way this definition is. So what you need to do first is to just have a quick look at the first chapter, because there are hardly any serious content involved in it, only the definitions and the 3 levels. And yes, one part towards the end of first chapter is there, which is called strategic management is applicable to various organizations, where it can be used in non-profit and medical organizations also. Don't miss the topic, because that can have a potential to come in the exam. Then what I want you to do is come down to chapter 3. We'll come down to chapter 2. It's one of the extensive chapters in your syllabus. So we'll put that on hold. And also let's go by the definition. Let us not simply do because it's there. Okay, let us try to understand what we are doing and then do it a little more seriously. So coming down here to chapter 3, which is a very critical chapter because that sets up the tone. You need to understand these words very clearly. Vision, mission, objectives and goals. What are the difference between each of these words? What is the concept of strategic intent? If you understand this first, and not only just to have a hold on the syllabus, but understanding these will get you a lot of marks in the MCQs. Because now they are giving you some situation, and they're asking you what is the vision of this entity, or what is the mission, what can this be termed as. All these are some of the questions they are asking. So it will be very, very helpful if you are able to start with chapter 3 and have a clear understanding. Towards the end of chapter 3, strategic management model is a concept that explains all the 5 phases that are involved in strategic management, which says the first step is developing vision, mission, objectives, and then doing a strategic analysis, which is what is discussed in chapter 2 in a great deal. So chapter 2 is a very extensive chapter because it covers so many aspects. So it takes time, so you should budget a lot of time for chapter 2. Whatever time you budget for 1 and 3, both put together, it takes 1.5 times to do chapter 2. It's the longest chapter of your entire syllabus. So longest because so many contents are there. So first get to the understanding of basics as to what does an industry mean, and industry, and there is a competitive analysis. Industry and competitive analysis. 7 points are there in the competitors analysis. How to analyze our competitors, right? In that there is a question which is called as developing a strategy whereby you can understand the strongest and the weakest rivals. It's called strategic group mapping. It's a very commonly asked question in the exam. So they can ask you about how to identify the strongest and the weakest rival. They can also ask you another question from there which is called triggers of change. So please mind that topic. And then there is one more point number 6, which is called key factors of competitive success. These 3 have already been asked in the exam as questions. They always have the potential to come up. Then comes to the next concept. The the concepts there both are about competition again. What are core competencies? The definition of core competencies. The 3 areas where we can achieve core competencies. Okay. Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahlad have given a 3 set of points where we can achieve core competencies, that particular question. And what are the 4 characteristics that you should be having to maintain the core competencies? That also is a question that can come up in the exam. So is the case in competitive advantage also. There are 4 points. Durability, appropriability, those points, that also will be an exam question. So here itself 3 possible exam questions are there. So don't miss that area of competitor study. It will be a little tedious to start off, but then I think having that hold is very important. Then come to understanding 3 simple topics: SBUs, experience curve, and the product life cycle. Those 3 short answer questions also very important. They also are fundamental for the portfolio analysis. And let me tell you, you mark as many number of stars as you want for portfolio analysis, because there hasn't been a question paper till now without a question from portfolio analysis. So definitely one out of these 4 portfolios will be asked. Either they'll ask you about BCG or ANSOF or maybe sometimes ADL. Though rarely asked, but they can ask from ADL and the GE model. Do not ever miss this topic. And then go to SWOT and TOS analysis, which will obviously tell you, because doing simply SWOT will not take you anywhere. So you should also have an understanding of what that TOS is and all. So you have to take that into consideration. Now this itself constitutes to like 20% of your syllabus. This chapter alone, okay, it's such a heavyweight chapter, because these 2 put together also won't contribute 10%. They both are small chapters. Then comes the major part where 50% of questions can come up in your exam, is all about chapters 4, 5 and 6. Because if you are looking at roughly, these 2 can contribute only to 10%. This alone can contribute 20%. Those 3 chapters are going to give you 50%. And the last 2 chapters here will again account to another 20% of the marks. Okay. So yes, that's how it's going to go. Chapters 4, 5, 6. Those 3 chapters itself are going to give you, because the content and coverage and the questions are so many, they can ask you questions on stability, strategy, and then expansion. In expansion you have diversification, intensification, mergers. So the possibility of asking questions are huge, right? And then retrenchment, strategies of divestment, turnaround and liquidation, all 3. So this chapter, and also with business level, 5 forces model, Michael Porter's 5 forces model is there, with the 3 strategies of cost leadership, differentiation and focus. Then one question is again compulsory from the 6th chapter, 1 or 2 possible questions maybe. They can ask you from finance strategy on evaluating worth of a business. There is one topic that I don't want you to miss, are the 4 P's that are involved in marketing: product, price, place and promotion. And then the 13 different forms of marketing: social marketing, augmented marketing, relationship marketing, that list till D marketing, because they can definitely form part of the MCQs. They can obviously come and hit you there. Then from the others, production strategy, or it's a very small one. Inventory management, how is logistics and supply chain different from each other? They can always ask you that question. And what is the best way to do R&D? When is a good time to do R&D? There are also very limited questions, guys. See, this looks like I'm telling you to study everything, but then the flow of aspects are so good that you can study everything, so there is no reason why you have to leave anything and go. Just that you need to understand the pattern to follow. Once you have come till here, then all is left will be step number 4 and 5, which is implementation and control. Before doing implementation, 8 organizational structures are there: functional, divisional, multi-divisional, simple structures, and the 3 new age structures: matrix, hourglass. Those are all something that you have to take care of. Then go with leadership. Questions are often asked from leadership: roles, responsibilities, and the 2 styles: transactional and transformational. Then, is culture an ally or an obstacle? That can also be a question that has been asked in the exam in the past. So you can check that. Kurt Levin's change process, unfreezing, changing and refreezing, that topic. And lastly, strategic control. So follow the same flow and then you will reach there. Then you have couple of miscellaneous topics: BPR, benchmarking, and back in the second chapter you also have one concept called globalization. All those topics you can deal towards the end: BPR, benchmarking, globalization, the concept of entrepreneur and intrapreneur. All these miscellaneous topics which have no connection to the flow of these events, you can actually target. And when you go in this pattern or in this fashion, making sure that you stick to this, you will cover each and every topic. One of the big reasons why people find that syllabus is so vast, or handling 2 subjects of 50 marks is difficult, is because they don't understand the approach to get to studying everything. So try this, and I think you will definitely find a better way to deal with. And once you start and go with this flow, you will be able to understand things more easily. And once again I'm telling, because I told you that more weightage is there here, don't jump off straight away here. Since we are having enough amount of time, so start off from here only, and you will, I think, do better than what you did in past. And if this is the first time you're doing it, then I think this is the flow you have to adopt. So let's now go ahead and see how to deal with things in the paper called Enterprise Information Systems. Let's now look at the syllabus breakup of EIS and then to decide the preparation strategy. Now obviously chapter 3 is the biggest chapter of your whole syllabus. So I will obviously have major emphasis on chapter 3. But also I understand chapter 3 has some content which is slightly technical. So what we need to build our base is on chapters 1 and 2 on some concepts which are very, very scoring. Let's start with chapter 1. Now as I told you in strategic management, it continues to be 15 marks of MCQs and 35 marks. But scoring these 15 marks also is a challenge if you don't know the concepts. So please make sure that you know your concepts well, otherwise you have serious problems there. Okay. So chapter 1, which is a very, very simple basic chapter on automated business processes, which talks more about BPA, that is automating an organization. What are the objectives of automating an organization? Steps, 8 steps involved. This could possibly be a question in the exam. Then we also are talking about the 7 benefits of BPA. So any of these can be even a 3 or 4 marks question. Then a new introduction, because the syllabus got revised for the May 2020 exams a little bit in EIS. Some new additions and some parts were deleted and all that, but more additions were there. And one of those topics where a lot of additions were there is the risk management terminology. Okay, so there are words like asset, threat, vulnerability, exposure, attack, likelihood, all those were introduced. They can either come as a short answer or an MCQ. That is a new topic. We all know May 2020 didn't happen. So this will be the first time when people will be answering that particular topic. So there are all possibilities. Questions can come from that. And always an examiner's favorite has been the 5 risk management techniques, right, of avoidance, elimination, mitigation. Those 5 techniques or risk management strategies, that could possibly be a short answer question. Then in the first chapter, I know what the problem is. Most of those areas we have configuration, master and transaction, risk and objectives. You can give a cursory glance to that entire topic. understand what is configuration, master and transaction, and then read what are the risks. Just give a reading once, that will be enough. You don't have to by heart any of those tables. If you choose to ignore that concept or keep it for later, I am not a fan of suggesting selective study, but that one topic you can put it on hold and you can always come back. But don't miss on the topic of internal controls and ERM, the 5 steps involved in internal control design and ERM framework. Please do read that, both the potential short answer questions, and towards the end we have provisions of IT Act, what is privacy, what is SPDI, so and when was the IT Act introduced and what are the advantages, the little bit of insight on Information Technology Act, don't miss that. Flowcharts are also part of the first chapter, but if at all you have learned flowcharts separately, it's very good, but otherwise also definitely learn flowcharts. If not, you can go to the playlists of my channel, you will find flowchart videos involved in that. You can go and watch the flowcharts and learn them if you haven't watched it yet, and learn it, because if it comes in the exam, it's like getting great marks with easy effort. Then come to chapter 2, because these 2 chapters now guys, they will total of these 50-55 marks including choice. These 2 chapters can range between 16 to 18 marks. Okay, these 2 chapters put together I'm saying. Okay, so the second chapter is also comparatively smaller in length, and concepts are limited, very easy, because it mainly focuses on in the beginning there are master data, non-master data, some basic topics, run through all those, but the major concept is about ERP. Again, a newly introduced topic in the May 2020 amendment syllabus is the ERP's benefits. 12 benefits have been introduced. That is a very important question that can appear in the exam. You may not want to write all 12, but at least a few points have to be written in the exam. Then what you should definitely focus on are the 11 modules of ERP, because each of them is a potential short answer question, and then the 5 benefits of the CRM module is also an exam question. Then ERP risk and controls is again a newly introduced, or rather you can say amended concept. So please go through the 5 risk and controls. This chapter major amendments have been there with respect to ERP, so new possibilities of questions can come up. Then 2 topics which you should also not miss is what is data analytics and what happens inside the data analytics. What is the concept of XBRL and who uses XBRL, or what are the advantages of XBRL? 2 questions are there in that. Who uses XBRL and majorly what are the features of XBRL is also another interesting question to be answered. So guys, 16 to 18, it can go up till 20 also. So these 2 chapters build your base very strongly. Then I suggest a very interesting jump here. Don't do the 3rd chapter immediately. So your order will be 1, 2, then you will go to 4. Why? Because this also having a potential of 8 to 12 marks. But the best part about this is this can be done very easily. Compared to chapter 3, you can put your focus on chapter 4 and build more stronger control on that chapter. Because you have one very easy topic called e-commerce. All of you should agree with me, e-commerce, the components involved in e-commerce, what are the benefits of e-commerce, and then risk and controls. But still that topic is one of the most easiest topics in your book, along with all the digital payments, which have again a lot of potential to come in the exam. So don't miss these 2 topics. Phase it in this order. Most people, what is happening with them? After doing chapters 1 and 2, they're jumping to chapter 3. They're finding it too lengthy and they're never able to complete, and in the meanwhile there are so many jolts that occur here that you completely lose hope on the syllabus. If you agree with me, you can obviously let me know through the comments, but then yes, that is what I have heard with so many people, which is why I always suggest do 1, 2, then jump to 4 and get that hold, because this kind of is comparatively the text is easier. I'm not saying chapter 3 is difficult, but chapter 3 needs little patience, and you should be more curious to know what exactly these are to have that hold. So we will come back, we will not leave that. It's a very, very important chapter because it has a lot of marks in it. We'll come and we'll do a study on that, but don't miss out. Then come and finish these parts. Grid, cloud, mobile and all are very easy. Concept of virtualization. It all needs proper understanding. So if you are thorough with the concept, Then chapter 4 is your major game and all the small topics. And IoT, I am marking a star for IoT this time because there are some changes to IoT where new small concepts have been added up. What are those areas in which IoT is used, which also can pop up to be an exam question. So if you are focused on both those and even web version 3, it's a short answer which already appeared in the exam in the past. So I mean, kind of my personal favorite, this chapter 4, because all our latest topics, all are very easy to understand. E-commerce you should have used, digital payments you should have used, most of these emerging technologies you know, and by nature also it's very easy chapter, and most of you will find it comfortable because you have used it. The reason why you don't find chapter 3 comfortable is also that only, that you have not been to those, like you have not been through those controls or not been to using so much of these information systems, which is why this looks a little out of connect, but not all parts. The first part of third chapter is again very scoring and easy. Hardware, software, people, data, those 4 data models, hierarchical model, network model, relationship database model and object oriented. One of those 4 can pop up in the exam. Uses of or applications of operating system can pop up. What is the application software? Short question can come. So lots of interesting stuff is there in the first part of this chapter. Yeah, and what I missed to tell you in the second chapter is there are 2 concepts that predominantly can come in the exam. Front end and back end part of a software. Yeah, front end, back end. Don't miss that question. I'm sorry, I missed to tell you that. And then also the difference between installed applications and web applications. Both these have already been asked in the exam, have been asked. So potential questions for the exam. Then now comes to the most dreadful part, I know, is the controls. So many of them are there. Sir, will it be possible for us to remember all that? If you go by a pattern, yes, but from a student's perspective, with all the other subjects to do, remembering all the control line by line, yes, I understand it's very difficult. So you know what, if you have seen my class, then there I will go by the breakup of the controls, objective wise and then nature wise and then audit wise. So take one control at a time. In that controls also, all are not difficult. Preventive, detective, corrective, compensatory are only small paragraphs. Physical, environmental are very easy. Where you need little technical understanding is the logical controls, because that's a whole lot of content where logical exposures are given and perpetrators are given and then controls are given. But the sad part of the story is, just in the last attempt there was a question that came from logical access controls. But if you sit and read, it's not a difficult topic at all, because you have all versions of the computer protected, right from network, operating system, application system and user, everything have to be logically protected. So if you try to understand the fundamentals of that topic, even that will be easy. Now what you can take a little leverage, I am not saying leave it, you can come back and read it later, are the 2 controls which are in the nature of managerial controls and application controls. You can come back and read them. If you go to my Instagram, you will find charts which are made for all these, but a little searching exercise is there. You can go onto my Instagram and find them. I've made charts for managerial and application control. So you can go by the flow with that, makes your life easy. But what you should not miss again is the last topic on audit. There are 5 audit tools. Snapshots, ITF. Okay, don't miss that topic. That's a very important topic. 5 tools, snapshots, ITF, the CIS, SCARF and audit hooks. Also the concept of audit trial. I think if you do that much in the third chapter, that covers 85%, and I believe that's good enough. Those roles and responsibilities, and you can ignore those topics, I believe, because even if a question comes, maximum leverage is 2 to 4 marks, which I think you can take it easy, because reading so much of content which is not very important doesn't help you really. Then come down to the last chapter, which is chapter 5, where also a lot of content is there which is not very student friendly. So let me tell you some select topics that you have to be very strong in. Chapter 5 is the core banking systems architecture. Of course, the introduction to everybody will read, because accepting deposit, lending, loans, and what are the functions of a bank. I don't think they should ask that question also in the exam, but still, just run through that and then get on to the architecture. Because once you know the architecture, the 10 steps in implementing CBS could be a question in the exam. Go through all the 8 servers that are used in a core banking system. At a central data center, 8 servers are there, right from application server to an antivirus server. 8 are there. Learn that topic well. Then come down to the risk and controls part. If you open current account, savings account, if you do a mortgage, if you do trade financing, for each process, risk and controls are mentioned. That is not a difficult topic. You should just sit and have an overview of it. And in the end, I want you to read about money laundering, okay, and the punishments that are there in the IT Act. That's it. Rest of the content, this what I told you here predominantly matches to 65% of the chapter. So I think if you do this, it's enough. I'm saying the other 35% don't leave it, because I'm not I'm not encouraging selective study. If you want good marks, you have to study everything. But then if you don't want to burden yourself too much, then you can definitely focus on this part, and I think that will definitely help. I'm now jumping to the old syllabus, but do watch the closing comments that I'm giving at the end of this video by clicking on the link in the description to the closing comments. Okay, so I hope you are an old syllabus student, and that's why you jumped to this part of the video after watching the introduction. So I'm first presenting you the strategic management, and then I will follow it up with the IT syllabus. So strategic management of the old syllabus has 7 chapters. Now when you say 7 chapters, there is an equal spread of marks across all 7 chapters for the total of 50 marks. But you can as well see that you guys also have the advantage of scoring these 15 marks from the MCQs and also the 35 marks from Q&A. Now if you are still thinking that you will do good in these 15 and try to manage these 35, that strategy is not going to work. You have to be good at both, and let me help you with that. So your syllabus in itself is so fantastic that it follows a flow. So let us also go by the same flow. So first I would want you to start with this first chapter and understand the basics. But though first chapter is a very basic one, most people try to ignore that, but roughly around 6 to 8 marks of questions are possible in the exam. Microenvironment, macroenvironment, the concepts of 5 forces model, Kiritsu, lots of simple questions are being asked in the exam, which most people are, because of their negligence, thinking that it's a very first chapter and a basic one, so they won't ask much. Don't do that. So please study the basics strongly. Internal environment, external environment, what is business made up of, and then micro environments, the pestle analysis, all of that. So that will give you a great deal of starting point. And then to start off with the strategic management process, chapter 2 gives you the basics of the strategy and management definition, which you can't miss. But they might not be asked as questions in the exam, but definitely they do help in MCQs. So please learn the strategy and management definitions from that chapter. And then you can get on to understanding the definition of strategic management, which is what the rest of the syllabus elaborates very clearly. So if you understand strategic management definition here, it also has a strategic management framework. Where are we now? Where are we going? How do we get that part? And then towards the end of the topic, there is a strategic management model, which opens up the subject to the entire discussion of the concept of strategic management in detail. Wherein the very first step is to develop vision, mission and objectives. Towards the end of second chapter, where the chapter is getting over, it discusses with you the 3 concepts of vision, mission and objectives and goals. This is a very important stage 1 of strategic management. So learn those definitions thoroughly. What is a vision? What are the elements that involved in making up a vision? That's an important question. It's appeared so many times in the exam. Also mission and objectives, not just as questions, they may be very useful in MCQs, because nowadays the MCQs are framed in such a manner that they give you a simple case and then they will ask you to write what is the vision. So unless you have a clear understanding of these words, you may not be able to score marks here. So please do make sure that you start off from this only. Then comes one of the most heavyweight chapters of the old syllabus, chapter 3, which is titled as Strategic Analysis. It has 4 analysis. Situational analysis is a small one. It comes down to a 3 marks question, nothing more than that. Then comes competitor analysis, which in itself is a very big topic, but then there are so many sub questions that can make up to the exam. So in competitors analysis, they can ask you about triggers of change. They can ask you a separate question on strategic group mapping, identifying the key factors for competitive success. So in itself, there are 3 or 4 questions. So subtopics 3, that is triggers of change, strategic group mapping, and key factors of competitive success. They are 3 very important questions. Then coming to the next topic, SWOT and TOS analysis. I think that's one of the very basic and easiest topics of your syllabus. Now, if there is anything on this board that I can place my bet that definitely a question is going to come, it is called as portfolio analysis. There hasn't been a question paper in the last so many years. You take any number of attempts of strategic management, definitely a question will be there from portfolio, where they will ask about BCG, ANSOF, ADL or the GE model, and they are definitely going to ask one question in your exam also from this. So be very well prepared, and it has to be prepared in such a manner that let them ask you any question, you should be able to write. High possibilities of these kind of questions coming in MCQs are also there, because which one is a star, which one is a cash cow, they can ask you that. Should they invest or protect, they can ask you that. Lot of possibilities from that area. Don't ever miss this topic. Now put double focus on that. Not only that, in portfolio analysis, there are 3 more sub concepts. Before reading all these 4 portfolio tools, you should be reading about SBUs, the product life cycle, and the concept of experience curve. Those 3 are also important short answer question. So everything that is there in portfolio analysis, don't miss it. Okay, that is very important, and predominantly this chapter itself accounts to roughly around 12 marks. I'm not saying exactly 12, so anywhere ranging between 8 to 12 marks. So slightly higher than the other chapters, because when it comes to chapter 1 and chapter 2, the weightage may slightly come down. When it comes to chapter 3, 4 and 5, it keeps increasing. Chapter 4, definitely 2 questions in the exam again, because this is also a very extensive chapter. It talks about strategic planning, and the spread is so huge. So technically Glueck and Jaws strategies and Grant strategies are same, and Glueck and Jaws strategies are not much emphasized. Stability, expansion, retrenchment and combination only. But then stability, expansion, retrenchment and combination are explained in detailed manner in the Grant strategies. So go through all those: intensification, diversification, concentric, conglomerate, vertical, horizontal. This part of Grant strategies should not be missed, because take it from me that there is again definite question from there. Then you can read the 3 strategies from Michael Porter: cost, leadership, differentiation and focus. You can go through that. Once you are through with these 2, there is a comparative table which explains what is the best cost provider strategy. You can always go with the best cost provider strategy. That is the last topic of that chapter. You can run through the table. Only 6 points are there. No much of a tension. Then coming to the functional strategy. Please go by the same flow, because that's what the strategic management definition is also. Creating vision objectives, doing an analysis, then crafting a strategy on paper, then implementation and control. So pretty much you follow the same flow. Okay. In functional strategies, you can start with finance strategy. I don't want you to miss that question on evaluating the worth of business. That's an exam question for 4 marks. So 3 marks they've asked so many times in the past. Then marketing strategy, wherein in terms of marketing, the 13 different forms of marketing: social marketing, augmented marketing, person marketing, place marketing, enlightened, demarketing. Don't miss that, because that can come in MCQs as well. And also what you need to understand about marketing are the 4 P's: product, price, place and promotion, and the extended 3 P's. It's called it's the marketing mix. It's the very important question from there. Then how logistics and supply chain are different from each other. What are the ways to do R&D? Should we do R&D or not? So this chapter has 6 topics, with each topic having one possible exam question. So follow that flow. So start with chapter 1, study the basics thoroughly, macro micro environment. Finish the second chapter, grab an understanding of vision, mission, objectives, and then phase out your preparation plan accordingly to these. Spend more time on chapter 3 and chapter 4 because lots of questions. These 2 chapters, if I am not wrong, they should be itself 20 to 25 marks. Depending on different attempts, my experience says they range anywhere between 18 to 25. I can give you that range. So sometimes they range even up till 25. What you don't know is, you think you have to write only for 50 marks, but the paper is much more than that because they include choice also, right? So they get a higher spread. So please focus on these 2 chapters thoroughly, and of course chapter 5 later. Chapter 6 is the conclusive part of the definition, wherein first, before implementing, you need to establish all those organization structure, functional, divisional, multi-divisional, SBU structures, hourglass structure, matrix structure. You can go through those structures. One of them is possible short answer question. 2 leadership styles are there, transformational and transactional leadership style. What is the role of a leader? Leadership concept. Then need for change in an organization and Kurt Levin's change process. 2 of those. Kurt Levin's change process is an examiner's favorite, so you can dedicate enough time on that also. And then quickly have a look at the concept of strategic control. Then one possible question, sometimes you study all this, they'll leave all that and ask you a question from what is the relation between strategy and culture? Is culture important in the organization? So do brush up that also. And some miscellaneous topics in chapter 7. One of those 4 are again going to be there in the exam paper. BPR, benchmarking, TQM and Six Sigma. Focus more on Six Sigma and BPR because both of them have made to exam enough number of times. Benchmarking and TQM are small concepts in themselves, so just run through them once, that will be good enough. But what you should not miss in the 7th chapter is the last topic, how strategic management is useful in other organizations like non-profit organizations, medical organizations, because one true or false question or one MCQ or probably even a short question was always there from that topic. Because they'll generally give strategic management is applicable even to non-profit organizations or not applicable, and then say explain. So that last topic also will make sense. Some miscellaneous topics like globalization and then the 5 forces model from the first chapter, you can run through them also because they are also of equal importance. Nothing to worry. Don't go by selective study. That is my earnest request. If you watch me till now, please understand that this is a pattern of study. I am not, again, I told you some of the questions that are very important from my perspective. Other questions also can come. So have a plan and go by the flow. Don't start picking up a random chapter and studying. And analyzing the syllabus like this gives you a picture of what the flow is, and then you can start off. And once you finish one round of the entire book, you have my revision video for the old syllabus, strategic management, in 57 minutes only. I will leave again the link in the description so you can go and watch that thoroughly to understand. The entire syllabus can be completed in less than 1 hour, the revision part. For that you need to be excellent. Follow this flow because in the revision also I have followed this flow. It will help you much. Okay, so now let us proceed and see our other 50 marks of information technology. Now let's look at the other 50 marks for the old syllabus, which is called as information technology. I know you're more afraid of this particular subject for obvious reasons, and maybe this subject could have also been a nightmare for you. But let me try and help you in figuring out a plan so that this time you go by this plan and study it properly, break it into parts and focus on those areas which are very important and make sure that you succeed. So let's get into understanding. Again, the bonus 15 marks MCQs. So tricky small areas will be there, where if you concentrate properly, you can score these marks very well. And of course, 35 marks of question and answers are also there. And your syllabus contains 5 chapters. Let's now talk about understanding what are the major parts of these 5 chapters where your predominant focus should be. So if you have not watched the SM part and directly jumped here, I request you go and watch that also. If you have watched that and now you're watching this also, good for you. Let's follow the strategy and try and make the most of it. Now, wherein the chapter 1 and 2 of IT syllabus are comparatively smaller than chapter 3 and chapter 4, which is also why marks are distributed in the same pattern. Chapter 3 and chapter 4 get more weightage, roughly around 12 to 14 marks of weightage for each of these chapters, while you have a 8 to 10 marks weightage for these 2 chapters, again depending on it. And this also ranges somewhere between 8 to, the 5th chapter, which is here, which also ranges from 8 to 10 marks. So totally you're getting a question paper for like 55 marks including choice. So there is a huge spread, and only 5 chapters, so definite questions from every chapter. What are the prime areas of focus in each chapter? Let's look at that. In the first chapter, I don't want you to miss out on the basics of what is BPM, what is process management, and the definition of BPM and how IT is linked up to BPM. Because sometimes they can ask you the straight question of define process management, which has been asked in the exam. So start from there only, keep the basics clear, understand each part of that, and then the 9-step BPM definition is there. You can understand that also. Then go to this concept called value chain automation, which is a critical question from that chapter. And also I didn't write here, but there is one question on how information can become an asset in the organization. All those are pretty much important from the first topic. Then towards the end, we have a small concept on BPMS, Business Process Management Systems, which is a software that helps you do the BPM. What is it? What are the advantages and disadvantages of BPM is a predominant question that has been asked in the exam. Second topic in the first chapter deals with BPR, Six Sigma, TQM. Since you are already concentrating on them in strategic management, a quick reference to those will be fine. BPR success factors, how to make sure that BPR is successful. That question is an exam question, so few points are there, you can check that. And one area that you should not miss out of the first chapter is called the mapping systems. Entity relationship, data, flow diagrams, flow charts, decision tables, that part don't miss, because one question is definitely going to come from that. Definitely, because there has always been a question paper with that question only. And if they are asking you flow chart, anyway I didn't kind of budget exclusive space for it. If flow chart comes, you're lucky enough to get your 4 marks, 6 marks, depending on how big the flow chart is. Nowadays they have started this technique of giving the flow chart and asking you to compute values, which is also easy if you can practice. So do not miss flow charts. Flow charts, again, if you want to go for understanding the flow charts, you can visit the playlist that I have put up in my channel. Flowchart videos are there. You can watch out for the flowchart videos if you still don't know how to draw them. That's your first chapter. Then coming to the second chapter, these are all individual topics. So there are 8 topics, none of them have connection to each other. Okay. So first topic talks about the need for IT, small one. Second topic, concentrate only on the relation between audit and IT. There is only one small topic, and I think you can go for it. You can take a little leverage there, because there is so much of content in that, and I don't think that is very helpful. What you should not miss in the second chapter is this topic called BPA. Every topic, definition of BPA, subtopics, the steps involved and activities involved in BPA, everything with respect to BPA has to be taken care. And then comes the definition of computing, small 5-pointer, you can read it very easily. Then move on to these 3 topics, server and types of servers, you can just run through the basics. Don't miss cloud and mobile, because there has been question in the exam. Computer architecture, you can take a little easy. If you want to read computer architectures, very good. CASC, RISC and the flow of items there in the architecture, the design part, you can read that. Then one question is compulsory from topic number 6 of this chapter, which are called as information system components that deal with hardware, software, that entire part. So what are the functions of the operating system? How does the application software work? What are some of the hardware components? So hardware, software, people, data, the data models, hierarchical network, all those are there here. This is a very extensive topic. Definitely it needs your attention. And then a small 5-stage SDLC process there. Just have a glance. What you should again not miss are the last few small topics are there. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, laptop. Just run through them. Now you generally think that you can write off those questions in the exam. That is where you will lose marks. So please don't forget to go through the text of those so that you can obviously word it in your own manner, but you can definitely go for how to deal with it. Write in points, it makes a lot of sense. And then you can as well talk about, the third chapter, which is the most scoring chapter, and of course lot of contents are there again. Network components, all the parts of network, right from a computer to communication, then hub, router, bridges, repeaters, gateway, that entire set of components. They can be even part of MCQs, or they can also be asked as a short question. So that is a topic that I don't want you to miss. Then classification of networks. They go by LAN, MAN, WAN, and then public networks, private networks. So based on area, based on ownership, based on function, the classification. 2 stars of this topic on topologies, star, bus, ring and mesh. They have also been one of the predominant topics from which the exam questions appear. Then of course small questions are there: serial transmission, parallel transmission, synchronous, asynchronous, simplex, half duplex, full duplex, and then circuit switching, message switching and packet switching. This part is very easy. I think if you concentrate on this part of the chapter along with those security techniques, firewall, intrusion detection systems, that is more than enough. Don't get into other unwanted topics, because this what I wrote here covers almost 60 to 70% of the chapter, and if you are thorough with this, I am almost confident that we will be able to make up great marks from this chapter. Because we also need time for chapter 4, which is again a very extensive chapter having different types of information systems. I think you should know these categories. Most people, what they do is to start off reading without having a proper understanding of what is there in the syllabus also. That is why it looks monotonous. First, what I suggest is prepare this kind of a flow, and as and when you finish something, keep ticking it so you know what portion is covered, and that also keeps you motivated to do things. Otherwise, that's one of the reasons why people don't read only, and then they will be like, I'm not able to get marks. So don't do that. Understand what's there in chapter 4, because that's also quite a big chapter like 3. So all the information systems, TPS, acid test is an exam question. Don't miss that. OAS a small question, you can take care of it. MIS and OAS are small questions, just glance. DSS, the 4 components of DSS an exam question. 2 types of knowledge, tacit knowledge, okay, and explicit knowledge. They have been exam questions, and again you can just run through EIS. But these 3 questions, acid test, DSS components, and the classification of knowledge, data and information, along with explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge, they have been exam questions. Then from here, there are 10 stages in the ERP. What is ERP? A brief description, go through that. What you should not miss is CRM, because that is again a question. But after these 2 concepts, there is one paragraph, relationship between ERP, CRM and SCM. That could be an exam question. Also, these 3 you can give a glance: HRMS, CBS and AIS. One odd time they have come in the exam, and they are not very difficult also. HR activities plus IT, that is all HR activities, recruiting, training, compensation, if all of those are automated. Banking systems, if they are automated, how it works. And accounting, like use of Tally or other softwares to operate accounting. So I think they are self-explanatory in them. But again, another area where exam questions have come in the past is the artificial intelligence techniques of define artificial intelligence. That itself can be a question. Or you can as well focus on this topic on expert system, and what are the need for expert systems is an exam question. Then go through the 5 subtopics of business intelligence, or BI as it is called. That's a very, very important topic. Scorecards, and dashboards, those things have come in the exam. That also has to be taken care. So yes, this is a little extensive chapter. This chapter might take time, but then I request you to first concentrate on all the important parts that I told you, and then you can obviously give glance to the other topics slowly. Bringing you to the last and 5th chapter. This is application softwares and how they are used. So before going to anything in this chapter, the 8 steps involved in BPA, which you already read in the 2nd chapter, but those 8 steps will be elaborated here. You have to read them. So the 8 steps. Then lot of small systems are there, right? Starting from Tally, MS Office, they explained a few systems. You can go through all that. Travel management system, retail billing systems, lots of small softwares. Just a glance, it won't take much time, you can go through that part. Then moving on to the next part of this chapter, delivery systems for a product, delivery systems for information. That is also kind of important. If you are thorough with this 60% of the chapter here, I'm kind of glad that you are doing good. But then when it comes to the last part of this chapter, be it controls or emerging technologies, there is so much of text in that which sometimes puts the students to a little, tension. So if you don't want, you want to take a chance, I generally don't suggest that. You can read both the controls, application and managerial, no harm. But then I'm saying, if you really want to leave something, then that should be this topic, because maximum leverage will be 4 to 5 marks, not more than that, which is still big marks, but one question you can try and park it in choice. Last one is again cool, emerging technologies. You only virtualization and grid computing, you can deal with that. So if you are panicking a little about controls, just have a glance if you want to, because if you want to get good marks, then you have to read everything and go. But if you are somebody looking for, because till now I didn't tell you to do any selective study. I was in this position and I feel very difficult about remembering all the controls. I'll tell you why. The problem there also, many people in the verge of trying to remember all this, they're forgetting the good things also, which is why if you don't want to take so much tension about this last topic on controls, you can take a little breather on that. But for that, practice flowcharts along with all these 5 chapters and follow this order. Make sure that you make a chart like this first to understand, or this video is very much on YouTube only, so whenever you want, you can come back and refer and try to finish everything of what is told here with conviction, and make sure that you write the exam well. Make sure that you write in points, use the technical words or use key words. Don't write vague sentences and don't leave it like you have no references. So make sure that you follow this pattern for IT. Okay, so I hope I was able to solve a bit of a problem. Yes, I know I am not writing your exam, you are the one writing it, but I do think that if you follow a pattern that I've explained, it should kind of help you in at least starting out somewhere, and then during your preparation itself you will figure out many things. And whenever you are good at something, make sure that you make a summary notes of that and keep constantly revising that summary notes and have a cumulative revision. Like say if you finish chapter 1 and 2 first, when you're doing chapter 4 or chapter 5, also keep a parallel tab of those chapters by revising this summary notes. You don't know the power of doing that, because right now it will feel like you're wasting time on revising so much. No, you will become stronger and stronger in the topic every time you revise. So do make sure that you maintain a summary notes, and do also make sure that you revise cumulatively. And when it comes to presentation of any of these papers, for ITSM-EIS, there's a separate video on presentation. Right after this, you will see them links coming up. I am tagging that video here, so you can go and watch the entire video on presentation. So I hope this video helped you. If it helped you, you know what you're supposed to do. And then if you're still not a subscriber, you also know again what to do. I'll see you in my next video, guys. Cheers.